What's going on, guys? It's your host, Alex Credit Expert. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, click the subscribe button. That way you're updated anytime I make a new post. And if you're already part of the family, thank you for coming back. I have a lot of information for you. If you're not following me on Instagram, make sure to look me up there. It's Alex Credit Expert. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about credit utilization. Credit utilization is so important. A lot of people just don't get how it works. The reason why you need to understand how it works is because this is what's causing your credit score to fluctuate every single month. A lot of you guys may already have good credit, but you still see your credit score jump all the time. The reason why is because you're not paying attention to credit utilization. Credit utilization is how much of your available credit limit are you using. This is something that's reported every 30 days from your credit card company to the credit bureaus. This is why a lot of you guys see your credit score jumping up and down all the time and you don't understand why that's happening. Every credit card is due on a different date. This means that you might have a credit card that the statement closes on the 10th of the month. Maybe another one closes on the 15th. Maybe another one closes on the 20th. If you're not properly managing all the credit lines for each credit card, you may pay off the first two in full, you show no balance, but maybe that third card, you didn't realize it's about to report, and maybe it's 50% maxed out. Well, if that's the case, that one card alone will cause your score to dip until the following month where you pay the balance down and it shows a healthy credit utilization percentage. So this is why it's important for you to understand how credit utilization works so you can go ahead and master that and never be wondering where your score is going to be on a month-to-month basis. When you understand credit utilization, you have full control and always know that you can expect your credit score to pretty much stay around the same numbers. With that being said, let's get to the video and show you guys all the details. Let's get started. So, credit utilization. Credit utilization is how much of your available credit limit are you using. So it's usage of available limit. I'm gonna give you guys an example to break this down as clearly as I can. I'm gonna show you how credit utilization would work with a $10,000 credit card just to keep things simple. Now let me grab a pen so you guys can follow along, or a marker I should say. Anyways, coming down here, I made this little bar graph for you guys. This is showing, let's say, a $10,000 credit card, okay? Right here is $0. That means you don't have any balance. You haven't spent anything. Right here is 1K. This is, you showing a $1,000 balance. This is 3K, showing $3,000 balance, 5K, 8K, and 10K. So remember, credit utilization, we do not want to go past 30%. What that means is we do not want to have more than $3,000 showing up on a credit card when the statement closes. And remember, all of this only applies for the statement closing date. You guys can go ahead and take this $10,000 credit card and max it out as long as you pay enough of that balance down to when the statement closing date happens, you only show the credit usage that you want to show. Remember, I'm gonna write down the examples for you guys. 0 to 10% is best. 10 to 30%, okay. And 30% plus, bad. These are the golden rules we live by. The reason why credit utilization is so important is because banks use this information to see how you handle your money. If you take a credit card and you max out the entire thing and you don't pay that thing down, the banks are gonna feel like you are high risk because you're not showing that you have enough money to pay this thing down. This is why these numbers matter so much. If you are showing a 0% balance, that means you haven't spent anything. Or maybe you did spend money, but you paid the full thing off. That keeps the banks feeling safe. If you leave a 10% balance of your entire credit limit, you're barely showing any money that you owe, which the banks also like. That means you are low risk. Once you start going 10 to 30%, you're still at a lower spot, so you don't seem high risk, but banks are starting to notice that, and in this range, it's very easy for that to keep climbing up. That's why you usually want to be at 10 to 30% at the higher end, and at the best side, 0 to 10%. Now, once you're at 30% or above, you're showing the banks that you are not handling your money properly. Some banks will still approve you at 30% utilization, but remember, we talk about optimization and being in the best position possible. This is why I want you guys in these two locations. Other people will tell you 30% is okay. And again, some banks will approve you, but if you want to be in the best position possible, these are the different places we want to be. And anything past 30% utilization starts to become a red flag. If you're 40%, 50% or higher, good luck. Most banks are going to decline you because you're showing too much credit utilization, and banks aren't going to feel safe that you're going to pay them back. So coming back to this, because you guys know me, I go all over the place sometimes just giving you gems. Now, this example I built for you, this is a $10,000 credit card. So I want to show you these examples right here visually. So remember, if you have a $10,000 credit card, $0 to $1,000 is 0 to 10%. 10% of $10,000 is 1K. So this is the green here that shows us this is the best place to be at. Now, 10 to 30% utilization from a $10,000 credit card would be 1 to 3K of a balance that you are showing. This place is still okay for funding purposes. However, again, I recommend you being in the green spot. And finally, 30% and above is where we do not want to be. 30% of a $10,000 credit card would be 3K. The 5K marker would be 50% of a $10,000 credit card. The 8K marker would be 80% of a $10,000 credit card. And if you owe a full $10,000 on a $10,000 credit card, that would be 100% credit utilization. Remember, 30% and above is a bad spot. The most I've seen someone get approved for is maybe having about 40% utilization. But anything past that, good luck getting approval, you're gonna get declined. And remember, here we talk about optimization and being in the best position possible for funding. So always do your best to be in the 0 to 10%. Worst case scenario, 10 to 30% will still be acceptable. Now, another big thing to realize is that this only matters for the statement closing date. I want to put a big emphasis on this. I am not saying that if you have a $10,000 credit card, you can only spend $1,000 or $3,000 of it. What I am saying is that when the statement closes, you want to make sure the balance you leave on the card is only at this mark, the 30% and under. So what does this mean? Remember, credit cards usually work off a 30-day billing cycle. It'll have a statement opening date and a statement closing date. What that means is when it opens, it's going to be capturing all the information for that month. And when it closes, it's like sending a snapshot to the credit bureaus. They take in the info and then they update that credit account and it gets mixed into your credit score. So let's say you have a card. The opening date is the 1st and the statement closing date is the 30th. So open, close. What this means is that let's say on the 1st of the month, we have a $0 balance. Let's say we spend a full 10K, and let's say for some reason we forgot to pay it off. So on the 30th, we are still showing $10,000. Well, this would mean that we have 100% utilization. That is very, very bad. We're going to show a completely maxed out credit card. Well, what happens if we see this and maybe on the 1st of the next month, we pay off the entire thing? Well, even if we pay off the entire thing, and we go from a $10,000 balance to a 0 balance, that credit card is not gonna update until the next closing date. So that means on the next 30th of the following month, it'll update to a $0 balance. So all this means is the first month that we forgot to pay the 10K off and we ended the month showing a 10K balance, our credit score would have tanked. Something like this can easily cause your score to drop as far as 100 points. Now, even if we pay it off on the 1st or the 2nd of the following month, most credit card companies are not going to update that until the next statement closing date, which means we would have to wait another 30 days until the 30th comes for the credit card company to update that with the credit bureaus. And obviously this is you paying off the entire balance without putting any more charges on it. So you got to be disciplined to make it through that time frame doing that. So this is why it's important to always be aware of when your statement closing dates are. Because one simple mistake like this, maybe you had the money here, but you just forgot about the day, so you decided to pay it on the 1st or the 2nd. Well, you just lost the whole month because now this whole month your credit is ruined. But as soon as you pay this thing off and the 30th hits, generally on the 1st, the new opening statement date, the balance will be reported and credit utilization will no longer be an issue because it'll be 0% and now your credit score will shoot back up. Now in this month, you could run some funding if that was the case. But you always have to be aware of this because if you guys are setting yourself up for a funding sequence, a mistake like this could cost you 30 days. And we don't want to be in a position where we are not in control of what we are doing. This is also why you need to pay attention when your statement closing date is, because this way you know how much you need to pay down before the statement closing date arrives. Now another example, let's say you spent $10,000 and you made a payment of $5,000 somewhere in between this date, let's say on the 15th. Let's say you didn't pay anything down and when the 30th came, you left a $5,000 balance. Well, that means when the 30th closes and reports, on usually the 1st or 2nd of the new month, you are going to show a 5K balance out of 10K. This is 50% utilization. This means you're still in that bad range for utilization, so your score is going to drop. So if we apply what we know that we want to be at 0 to 10%. This means that, let's say again, we come back to this example. We have the 10K credit card, we spend the full $10,000. Well, as long as we're able to make a payment big enough so that when the statement closes, we show a 10% balance, we'll be fine. If we spend the full 10K, let's say we pay 9K a couple days before the statement closes, and now we're only showing a 1K balance. Well, when this updates to the credit bureaus, it's going to show 1K out of 10. Now we're going to be showing 10% utilization, and our score is not going to fall. It's going to stay strong. So this is why I'm saying this only applies for the statement closing date. You can max out this entire card as long as that when the statement closing date comes, you show the balance that you need to show in order to have good utilization, which again, 0 to 10% is the best, 10 to 30% is okay, and you do not want to exceed 30%. Now, one important thing for maybe you guys that don't know about statement closing dates, I do have another video that breaks that down even more, but to give you a quick summary of this, let me go ahead and remove some of this info. Your statement closing date can be found on your credit card statement. So generally, what happens is your credit card company will tell you the opening date through the closing date. This is the date you can start spending, and this is the date when statement closes. Whatever is left here, X amount, will show up on report. And to give you guys a little tip, a lot of times your minimum payment due date is usually about 5 days before your statement closing date. So what does this mean? If I know that the 10th of every month is my minimum payment due date, generally, I can assume anywhere from the 13th to the 15th is the statement closing date. Now remember, you always want to confirm yourself because different credit cards follow different rules. Majority of credit cards, this example will fit, but there are certain cards that follow other rules. Some credit cards may update twice a month. Some credit cards may just fully update every 1st of the month. An example is the Apple Card. The Apple Card will always update on the 1st of the month no matter what. So you always have to pay attention to when your statement closing dates are, and each credit card company will tell you in the statement. It's usually on the top right or the top left corner, and it'll say something like opening date and closing date. Closing date is generally the statement closing date. One last thing to note to make this easier for you guys, a lot of your credit card companies are going to be willing to change your minimum payment due date. So for you guys that might have a lot of credit cards and you like to be organized, what you can do is you can call into your credit card company, ask them to see if they can switch the credit card due date to a similar date that lines up with all your other credit cards. Now you can call to have all your credit cards due on the same day, and generally this means that most of your credit cards will be closing around the same date as well. Now some credit card companies will not allow you to change this date. Some of them will keep the same minimum payment due date you got when you first opened the account forever. So what you can do as well is you can always figure out which ones do not allow the change and which ones do. And if you have a card that does not allow the change, you can make the ones that do allow the change to be right in line with the ones that don't. That way you still get the same outcome, moving your minimum payment due dates close to the same date. But that is totally up to you. You don't have to, it just keeps things organized. So that is pretty much it, guys. Today we talked about credit utilization, how it affects your score every 30 days, and how you can still max out the entire limit as long as you make a payment that brings down the balance before the statement closing date happens. We also talked about how you find the statement closing date in your statements that the banks give you, or you can use a general rule of thumb. Whenever your minimum payment due date is, 3 to 5 days later is that statement closing date. But for 100% accuracy, always look at the closing date on your statement or just call your credit card company. They'll be able to tell you. And remember, these things happen every single month, usually on the same date, unless you have certain months that have less days, like maybe February, 28 days instead of the 31st. So it just depends. But this is everything for credit utilization. Remember, 0 to 10% is best, 10 to 30% is okay, and you do not want to exceed 30% when you're going for funding. Your scores will typically drop and you'll get declined. Master credit utilization so you don't have to worry about your scores fluctuating every single month. That way everything can stay consistent and you can always be in a great position for funding. If you guys enjoyed this video and you learned a lot, make sure to click the like button, hit the subscribe button. That way you can keep up to date whenever I make new posts about credit and funding. I'll see you guys here for the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed. See ya.